We also welcome to the show Gab Marcotti and our Argentine colleague from ESPN Deportes, Ricardo Ortiz, is with us. Ricky, I want to start with you to try and just sum up how important Maradona was for Argentina.
Hi guys, it's a pleasure to be with all of you. Maradona is the most important figure ever in Argentina. It doesn't matter what, where, when. Everybody would always talk about Maradona. He is a legend now, the idol, and now a legend. It's just unbelievable the morning and what people on the streets are doing in the middle of a pandemic. They don't care. If in Argentina right now, for example, in the stadium of Boca Juniors, there's hundreds, thousands of people probably, and a lot more tonight, gathering where he played and won a championship. There's hundreds and thousands of people gathered around Argentino Juniors Stadium where it all started, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people outside of his house in a very poor neighborhood outside of Buenos Aires called Villa Fiorito, the house where he grew up on with dirt floors. They're lighting candles. Every street, every corner, every city, every town, people are out on the streets. And tomorrow in the funeral, it will be in Casa Rosada, the government's palace. They're expecting over 1 million people tomorrow in the center of Buenos Aires to say goodbye to somebody who's the most famous Argentinian for us and the most famous Argentinian around the world ever. So people are really suffering, something that they knew was going to happen sooner rather than later.
What a player he was, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, multiple World Cups they played in. One obviously in '86 with not the best Argentina side, but he was amazing. Went to Spain in '82 and played in the World Cup as a 21-year-old, I believe. But that's a lot of weight in his shoulders for one so young at that point. Got himself sent off in the big game against Brazil, where they went out, learned from that, came back, was even stronger, delivered. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is that up until his death today, if he'd gone to any club to visit in the world at the moment, be it the biggest clubs in Germany, Spain, Italy, England, every player, and some of these players are superstars, every one of these players would have wanted a photo with him. We've seen some of the pictures and videos doing the rounds when he did go and visit clubs over the past few years, and all these guys, all they wanted to do was get a photo with him because everybody just knew what a superstar he was, and he could walk into any club and the big stars would all be over to say, please can I have a photo, because that's how much people hold him in respect.
Gab Marcotti with us as well. Gab, obviously we heard how Argentina is hurting in particular, as is Naples today.
No question about it. People are out there on the streets in Naples, even though, of course, there is a curfew going on right now. The connection that he made with Naples, obviously his adopted city, and some might look at some of the darkness in his life and pinpoint that as a moment when things maybe started to go wrong for him. But you speak to his teammates, former teammates. And they all speak of his generosity. They speak about how he was always front and center, always standing up to be counted, random people on the street. And to this day in the streets of Naples, you'll find murals to Maradona. You'll find shrines to Maradona. He had a hold over a city that was, when he arrived was beaten down, was impoverished, had never won a Serie A title. There's a divide between the wealthier north of Italy and the poor south of Italy. And they won 2 titles while he was there. A third one they let slip away at the end, and still rather murky circumstances. And he's the guy who changed all that. He changed the inevitability of history, I think, in the eyes of a lot of people, and that's why he resonated so much. He loved, certainly at Naples, but I think beyond that, he loved being anti-establishment. He loved speaking his mind, and I'll tell you what, Dan. Throughout his life, he had highs and lows. He made enemies, and then at times But in the end, in the last 15, 20 years, whether it was Pelé, whether it was Peter Shilton, he came back and he made up with a lot of the people he fell out with. And I was struck by something I read, somebody reposted an interview he gave back as a 19-year-old, where he talked about how his favorite actor was Ryan O'Neal, which I found kind of random, but he talked about what his greatest trait was. And he said, I want to be friends with my enemies. And I think in many ways that is how much of the world from a distance viewed him, as somebody who had the good fortune before he passed to go back and really rebuild all the bridges and all the relationships and really leave us on good terms with very much everybody out there.
Ricky, just take us through just your point of view with regards to how you will remember him.
Well, I will remember him as one of the greatest ever on the field, and also a personality so strong and controversial off it. Not many great athletes have done that to be so much in the spotlight for his entire life since he was about 7, 8 years old, when in Argentina they started talking about him. He used to play for this team called Cebollitas and the Red Star, Estrella Roja, where people would gather out of nowhere because they knew there was a new kid that was unreal. And this was way before cable, internet, and social media. And he did all that before all those times, which is just incredible. He was just different than everybody else. And I will remember him also as a great, great captain. Whether you love him or you hate him, he loved that Argentinian jersey more than anything and more than anybody. He was a great leader. He would push to the end, and that's how he won a World Cup. That's how he made it to the final in the second World Cup. He played injured with his right leg in really bad shape, his ankle in really bad shape. If you look at through the years, he started at the age of 16 playing in first division, and he never stopped. I think he could have played 10 more years if he would have taken better care of himself. I also will remember him for that, for not being able to really take care of his body and his mind. It just went over his head and he could never control himself. He went into politics, and a lot of people hating him for that, but he always spoke his mind. He didn't care what, where, or when. And all these things from Maradona are just different from almost every other athlete, maybe with the exception of Muhammad Ali, that in and out of a field or a boxing ring, he just kept being on the front page of every paper and every newspaper that was ever printed. It's just unbelievable coming from Argentina that I was listening to Gabi there. You think of Italian soccer in the 80s. I think he was one of the first ones who made people around the world want to watch a league like the Italian league just because Maradona was playing. He won with Napoli twice, where they could have never even come closer to that. And I've been there many, many times, and it's just unreal. Today, yesterday, and 30 years ago, for every day, you can buy a Maradona shirt a lot easier than you can Insigne, Mertens, Hamsik, Higuain, anybody that played after him. It's just incredible what those people thought and loved about Diego Armando Maradona.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.